From the outset, the reader understands that she is not an ordinary predator. She is trained from birth to be lethal, precise, and strategic. Her species values speed, intelligence, and flawless execution, making failure unthinkable. Valera embodies all these traits, and her reputation precedes her. The setup immediately positions her as an apex predator, someone who is accustomed to being in control and unchallenged. Her target is Cain, a human. To any rational observer in her universe, a human would be considered a weak, fragile creature, barely capable of defending itself against advanced alien technology. Humans are not predators in the traditional sense. They rely on ingenuity, adaptability, and improvisation rather than brute strength or natural weapons. This immediately introduces the core theme of the story, the contrast between instinctive alien superiority and human resilience and cunning. Cain is labeled a fugitive, someone who has broken laws that the galaxy's most powerful enforcers consider absolute. Valera's mission is simple: track him, capture him, and restore her species' notion of order at what should have been. A routine hunt quickly becomes a test of wits and endurance. Turning conventional expectations on their head, the narrative emphasizes the duration and persistence of the hunt. Valera has been chasing Cain for months across 3 star systems. This is significant because it establishes the stakes in her obsession. A months-long pursuit shows that Cain is not only elusive, but also highly intelligent and resourceful. He is not fleeing blindly, he's adapting and learning from each encounter, leaving subtle clues that suggest a calculated strategy. This hints at Cain's unique approach to survival, one based on foresight, patience, psychological understanding rather than raw physical prowess. The reader begins to sense that this is not a straightforward predator-prey scenario. It is a clash of 2 fundamentally different forms of intelligence. Despite Valera's frustration and exhaustion, the story builds tension by showing how close she comes to capturing Cain. Finally, on the barren moon of Erythra, she corners him. This setting is not just a backdrop. It amplifies the drama. The harsh, lifeless terrain mirrors the intensity of their encounter and the isolation of the hunt. Cain, instead of panicking or running, stands his ground calmly. This unexpected behavior immediately signals to both Valera and the reader that Cain is extraordinary. His composure under pressure suggests that he is aware of her tactics and possibly even prepared for them. Flipping the expected power dynamic on its head, Cain's dialogue is subtle but loaded with meaning. When he remarks that Valera is tired and that the chase might end her way or his way, he demonstrates self-awareness, psychological insight, and control over the situation. He is not threatening her with violence, he is challenging her perception of the hunt itself. Human does not fight like a cornered animal, engages with strategy, intellect, and calm defiance. This moment plants the seeds for the story's HFY humans are exceptional theme. Humans are not powerful in the conventional sense, but their mind, adaptability, and resilience make them formidable in ways alien species do not anticipate. Valera's internal reaction highlights her pride and frustration. She has never encountered prey that can endure her tactics without showing fear, and this challenges everything she believes about her own superiority. The narrative conveys her admiration and incredulity without reducing her role as a competent predator. This duality, her fearlessness in combat, and her unaccustomed humility in the face of Cain's cunning, creates a compelling tension that propels the story forward. Finally, the first part concludes with the implication that Cain is in control, despite appearances. While Valera is physically dominant and trained to kill, Cain's calm demeanor and insight into her tactics position him as the intellectual superior. The chapter ends with a sense of anticipation. The hunter may have caught up physically, but the psychological and strategic game has only just begun. The reader is left questioning who truly holds power, the apex predator or the human who bends chaos to his will. Of the story shifts from the tense build-up of the hunt to the first direct confrontation between Valera, the apex huntress, and Cain, the human fugitive. This part is pivotal because it begins to subvert expectations and solidifies the HFY humans are exceptional theme that runs throughout the story.
Oh.
While Part 1 established Valera's dominance and Kane's elusiveness, Part 2 transforms the hunt into a psychological and strategic duel, showing that Kane is not just surviving but actively controlling the encounter in subtle yet profound ways. The chapter opens with Valera's instinctive strike. Trained as a hunter, her reflexes are honed to perfection. She attacks with a speed and precision that most beings in the galaxy would find impossible to counter. Her plasma blades, glowing with deadly energy, slice through the air, and every movement is designed to overpower Kane. At first glance, it seems like the expected clash between predator and prey, straightforward test of skill and physical capability. Yet Kane's response immediately challenges this notion. Kane's dodges are not frantic or reactive, they are calculated. The text emphasizes that he moves not with sheer speed or strength, but with anticipation and precision, almost as if he can predict her attacks. This distinction is crucial. Valera is the master of combat instinct, yet Kane operates on a level that transforms instinct into strategy. He reads her movements, redirects her energy, and uses her own force against her. Where alien predators rely on training, reflexes, and overwhelming power, Kane leverages human intuition, adaptability, and situational awareness. Highlighting one of the central HFY concepts, humans thrive in ways other species cannot comprehend. Because they combine intellect, creativity, and emotional awareness with physical capability, the duel stretches across hours, moving through the jagged craters of Erythra. This setting amplifies the tension. The barren, harsh terrain mirrors the raw intensity of their confrontation. Unlike Part 1, which focused on the chase and psychological tension, Part 2 immerses the reader in action and technique. Every blow, block, and movement reveals character traits. Valera's strikes are fierce and precise, but Kane's calm counters demonstrate that strength alone does not dictate the outcome. The narrative uses this prolonged combat to emphasize that the human's advantage lies not in raw power, but in mental acuity and adaptability under pressure. Dialogue plays a subtle but critical role in this section. Kane speaks calmly, almost philosophically, remarking on Valera's predictability and her reliance on brute skill. His words "strength without understanding is wasted effort" highlight a theme central to HFY stories. Humans are exceptional, not because they are the strongest, but because they think, adapt, and improvise in ways other species fail to anticipate. This moment also begins to shift the power dynamic. While Valera has the physical upper hand, she experiences an unfamiliar sensation, frustration mixed with admiration. Kane is exposing a blind spot she has never confronted before against. An over-reliance on raw ability. By the end of the confrontation, Valera is physically exhausted and psychologically unsettled. She falls to one knee, signaling her first moment of real vulnerability in the story. Yet Kane does not exploit this with aggression. Instead, he extends a hand in a gesture that conveys trust, not submission, and suggests a different kind of power. Moral and psychological influence is a turning point because it introduces the story's core narrative arc. The hunter may physically dominate, but the human's calm, strategic mastery allows him to tame the predator. The hand he extends symbolizes not just mercy, but an invitation to see strength from a new perspective through intelligence, patience, and understanding rather than raw force. Part 2 also establishes the story's underlying tension between instinct and reason. Valera embodies instinct. She reacts, strikes, and relies on innate predatory skills. Kane embodies reason and anticipation. He calculates, adapts, and guides the encounter without raising his voice or exerting excessive physical force. This contrast lays the groundwork for the coming chapters, where Valera gradually learns that humans can tame even the most formidable beings, not through weapons or dominance, but through intellect, perception, and calm self-assurance. Finally, the chapter closes with a sense of unresolved power dynamics. Valera is physically superior but mentally challenged, and Kane is physically weaker but strategically superior. The narrative foreshadows the coming shift in roles. Valera will no longer simply hunt. She will follow, learn, and be influenced by Cain. Part 2 is critical because it turns the story from a conventional pursuit into a psychological and philosophical exploration of what true strength means, reinforcing the HFY theme that human ingenuity and resilience can surpass alien. PHYSICALITY. In summary, Part 2 accomplishes the following: introduces the first direct confrontation between hunter and prey, highlights human intelligence, adaptability, and calm as superior to alien physicality and instinct, establishes the subversion of traditional power dynamics, develops tension, admiration, and psychological complexity between the characters, foreshadows the story's central HFY theme: humans can tame even apex predators without brute force, marks a major turning point in the story. Up until now, the narrative has focused on the chase and the first confrontation, establishing Cain's extraordinary human abilities and Valera's prowess as a huntress. In this section, the story shifts from physical conflict to psychological growth and mutual influence, showing how Cain's human traits, adaptability, intelligence, patience begin to actively tame Valera, not through force, but through demonstration of mastery and perspective. The chapter opens with Valera, the apex predator, reluctantly following Cain after their confrontation on Earthra. She has fallen into a state of curiosity and tentative respect. She realizes that brute strength and predatory instincts are insufficient against this human. Cain leads her not by coercion, but by examples showing her alternative ways to survive, adapt, and solve problems that her species' instincts would never teach. This shift emphasizes the story's HFY humans are exceptional theme. Humans excel not because of natural physical superiority, but because of ingenuity, creativity, a capacity to adapt to challenges that no species can anticipate. The narrative details several instances where Cain demonstrates these abilities. He improvises in survival situations, uses the environment to his advantage, and anticipates danger in ways that seem almost instinctive, but are actually the result of sharp observation and calculation. These moments highlight the human ability to turn chaos into opportunity, whereas Valera has been trained to anticipate threats within rigid patterns. Cain operates fluidly, observing and exploiting variables that even a master hunter cannot account for. For Valera, this is both frustrating and mesmerizing. She begins to see that her own training, while exceptional in traditional combat, is limited by the rigidity of instinct and expectation. The story also explores the subtle psychological dynamics at play. Cain does not dominate Valera with force or authority. Instead, he earns her respect through competence, calmness, and situational mastery. For example, during their navigation of a hostile environment, he anticipates traps and ambushes, calmly explaining strategies and demonstrating tactics that rely on mental acuity rather than raw physicality. Valera, despite herself, begins to emulate his techniques, noticing improvements in her efficiency and decision-making. This dynamic illustrates a key HFY concept. Humans inspire growth and change in others not through intimidation, but by exemplifying a higher order of thinking and adaptability. The chapter further emphasizes the transformative effect Cain has on Valera. Her initial view of humans as weak, fragile, and predictable is completely shattered. She realizes that the human's strength lies in resilience, improvisation, and the ability to perceive patterns that others cannot. For the first time, she experiences humility. An alien huntress, revered for her dominance, is learning from a human. This role reversal is central to the story's theme. It is not always physical dominance that defines superiority, but the capacity to innovate, anticipate, and teach. Additionally, Part 3 deepens the emotional and relational connection between the characters through shared hardships, cooperation in survival, and mutual observation. A subtle trust develops. Valera, once a predator with a singular focus on capture, begins to recognize the value of partnership and guidance. Cain's calm, Patient approach shows her that strength can be wielded in ways other than aggression through understanding, strategy, and patience. This softens her character, transforming her from a relentless hunter into someone willing to learn, adapt, and even be led. The story also uses environmental storytelling to reinforce this theme. As they traverse dangerous terrains, hostile moons, asteroid belts, and alien landscapes, the dangers they face act as catalysts for learning. Cain demonstrates that human problem-solving is not about overpowering obstacles, but understanding them and turning them to one's advantage. These episodes are not just action sequences. They're narrative devices that show the gradual process of Valera being tamed mentally and emotionally, rather than through violence. Finally, Part 3 sets up the narrative for the next phase of the story, the shift in power dynamics. By the end of this chapter, Valera is no longer a hunter pursuing her prey. She is a learner, a student, and an ally. Cain has shown her that humans possess a kind of dominance that does not rely on strength or predation, a dominance rooted in intelligence, adaptability, and subtle leadership. This prepares the reader for the upcoming transformation in Part, where Cain will not only survive physical challenges, but also orchestrate events and guide Valera in ways that fully invert the predator-prey relationship. In summary, Part 3 achieves several key goals, shifts the story focus from physical confrontation to psychological and strategic influence, highlights HFY themes, emphasizing human adaptability, intelligence, and resilience, develops character growth, showing Valera's humility, curiosity, and willingness to learn, establishes trust and subtle emotional connection between Cain and Valera, foreshadows the upcom. It's the pivotal moment in the story where the dynamic between Cain and Valera fully shifts from hunter and prey to teacher and student, or more accurately, leader and apprentice. This section emphasizes how humans in HFY narratives are exceptional, not necessarily because of raw physical strength, but because of strategy, adaptability, and calm mastery under pressure. While previous parts focused on establishing Cain's ingenuity and Valera's admiration, Part 4 demonstrates the practical application of that ingenuity in high-stakes combat, solidifying Cain's ability to tame even an apex predator. The chapter begins with Cain and Valera facing a life-threatening situation, a pirate fleet ambush in the dense Korath asteroid belt. The environment itself is chaotic, moving asteroids, unpredictable gravitational fields, and hostile enemies, all of which create a scenario that challenges instinct and training. For a species like Valera's, trained to dominate through speed, precision, and strength, this level of unpredictability would be overwhelming. Cain, however, thrives in chaos. He approaches the scenario not as a threat to be neutralized by force alone, but as a problem to be solved through observation, foresight, strategic manipulation of the environment. This section highlights a central HFY theme. Humans excel in turning disorder into advantage. Cain disarms opponents using minimal physical exertion, exploits their aggression against them. Cain anticipates their maneuvers with a level of insight that makes even Valera, the huntress, feel like a reactive participant rather than a proactive one. The narrative emphasizes that Cain's strength lies not in overpowering others, but in mental agility, creativity, and calm decision-making. Every action he takes is measured and deliberate, and every tactic he employs demonstrates his ability to predict, adapt, and control the flow of events without relying solely on raw force. This starkly contrasts with Valera's instinct-driven combat style, which, while formidable, lacks the subtlety and foresight Cain demonstrates. A significant moment in this chapter is when Valera realizes that she is being guided not through domination, but through trust and coordination. Cain communicates subtly, often without words, influencing her movements and decisions. She executes his strategies flawlessly, even when they conflict with her natural predatory instincts. This represents a psychological turning point for Valera's previous identity as a dominant hunter is being reshaped. She is no longer leading. She is following, learning, and executing strategies that require her to surrender control. The story frames this as a form of empowerment, not subjugation. By allowing herself to be guided, Valera becomes more effective and capable than she ever was alone. illustrating an HFY principle. Humans inspire and elevate those around them. Through intelligence and trust, the battle in the asteroid belt serves multiple narrative purposes. First, it provides high-stakes action that demonstrates Kane's superior strategic mind. Second, it reinforces the growing bond and mutual respect. Between the characters, Valera's trust is earned through consistent demonstration of skill and foresight. Third, it subverts expectations of power. The apex huntress, who once commanded fear and obedience, now follows the lead of a human. Showcasing a recurring HFY motif, humans can tame even the most formidable beings without intimidation or physical dominance. Part 4 also explores the emotional dimension of this shift. Valera experiences an unfamiliar mix of awe, admiration, and humility. She is not defeated in the conventional sense. Physical abilities remain unparalleled, but she is mentally and strategically outmaneuvered, which challenges her perception of strength. The story emphasizes that true strength is not measured solely by speed or physical power, but by the ability to anticipate, adapt, and influence outcomes. Kane embodies this human strength, which alien species like Valera's cannot fully comprehend, reinforcing the narrative's HFY theme. By the end of Part 4, the reader witnesses a complete inversion of roles. Valera, the predator, has become a disciplined follower, executing Kane's strategies under his guidance. Kane has asserted a new form of dominance, one based on intellect, adaptability, and leadership, rather than brute force. The chapter sets the stage for the story's conclusion, where this transformed relationship will culminate in mutual respect, trust, and the ultimate acknowledgement of human accept. In summary, Part 4 accomplishes several key objectives. Shifts th. Serves as the climax and resolution of the story, bringing full circle the themes of human ingenuity, adaptability, and the unique form of strength that defines HFY. Humans are exceptional narratives. Throughout the story, Kane, a human, has survived relentless pursuit, outsmarted an apex predator, and gradually shifted the power dynamic from one of hunter and prey to one of mutual respect and strategic alignment. This final part emphasizes the culmination of that transformation. Valera, the huntress, is no longer solely a predator or dominant force. She has been tamed. It's not through submission or humiliation, but through human intelligence, leadership, and calm mastery. The chapter opens with Kane and Valera aboard a human-modified cruiser traveling through the stars. This setting is significant because it contrasts with the earlier barren, hostile landscapes where the hunt took place. Now, the environment is controlled, navigable, and dominated by human designs, symbolizing Kane's influence in the way. He has shifted the natural order of their relationship. Valera's presence aboard the cruiser signals her acceptance of this new dynamic. She no longer hunts, and she no longer needs to assert dominance. Instead, she is actively learning, following, and participating in human-led endeavors. This demonstrates that taming, in this story, is not about reducing someone to weakness, but showing them a higher, more effective form of strength. The narrative emphasizes Valera's internal transformation. She began as an apex huntress, confident in her physical prowess and combat instincts, yet through months of pursuit, confrontation, and collaboration, she has experienced a form of humility unfamiliar to her species. She recognizes that Kane's strength lies not in muscles or reflexes, but in strategy, foresight, adaptability, and calm under pressure. This realization is central to the HFY theme. Human power is fundamentally different from alien conceptions of strength, and it can be both dominating and inspiring without requiring physical intimidation. Valera's willingness to follow Kane, execute his strategies, and trust his judgment is a testament to this revelation. Part 5 also underscores the psychological and emotional depth of their relationship. Kane has consistently led by example, demonstrating intelligence and patience rather than commanding or threatening. Through their shared experiences, combat, survival, navigation of hostile environments, he has earned Valera's respect and trust. Her transformation is not about submission in the conventional sense. It is about recognition that following Kane's lead allows her to be more effective, capable, and fulfilled than she could ever be alone. This emphasizes a nuanced HFY concept. Humans inspire growth and transformation in others, not through coercion, but through demonstrated competence, calm confidence, and strategic guidance. The story also touches on the idea of mutual benefit. While Valera has been tamed in the sense that she no longer relies solely on instinct, she brings her own unparalleled skills and abilities to Kane's guidance. Together, they form a partnership that is greater than the sum of its parts. Human ingenuity combined with alien strength and combat experience. This reinforces a recurring theme in HFY stories. Humans, while physically weaker than many alien species, are uniquely capable of maximizing the potential of allies and environments. Through collaboration and leadership, as the chapter progresses, the narrative highlights the broader implication of this transformation. Valera, once a feared predator who ruled her sphere of influence through fear and skill, now walks alongside a human who has tamed her mind, strategy, and perspective. She smiles freely, a gesture of both relief and admiration, signaling a shift in identity, from hunter to partner, from dominant force to strategic collaborator. The story frames this as a triumph of human qualities: intelligence, adaptability, and psychological insight over raw, predatory instinct. The reader understands that Kane did not defeat Valera in battle. He outmaneuvered her mentally, emotionally, and strategically, demonstrating the subtle but superior strength of humanity. Finally, Part 5 serves as the story's thematic resolution. The stars stretch endlessly before them, a metaphor for both opportunity and exploration. Valera no longer feels the need to chase or dominate. She experiences the exhilaration of walking beside a human who has shown her a higher order of strength. The ending reinforces HFY ideals. Humans may not always be the strongest or fastest, but their ability to think, adapt, inspire, and lead is unmatched, even by the galaxy's apex predators. Kane's taming of Valera is a testament to human exceptionalism, executed not through violence or dominance, but through intellect, calm mastery, and the quiet power of example. In summary, Part 5 achieves several critical objectives. Concludes the character arcs. Valera transforms from predator to partner. Kane's ingenuity is validated. Demonstrates HFY principles: human intellect, adaptability, strategic thinking, and ability to inspire others. It emphasizes psychological and emotional depth, highlighting mutual respect and trust. Shows the ultimate inversion of roles, where a physically superior alien is led and influenced by a human. Provides thematic closure, celebrating the unique strengths of humanity in a galaxy of stronger, faster species. Part 5 is the story's culmination, demonstrating that humans do not always win through force, they win through mind, strategy, adaptability, and the ability to elevate others, leaving a lasting impression on even the most formidable alien adversaries.